Preflight ground controls. Setting up your ground controls is the key to success with FlightCheck. For this one, I'm going to go over to the computer because the ground controls are the heart of FlightCheck. Now, they're set up in the beginning with some of the key checks already set for you. So many people actually use the default settings for years, and the new FlightCheck 2022, I don't imagine it to be any different. We've of course rebuilt the engine of FlightCheck from the ground up for this new FlightCheck 2022, which allows our engine to get previews and to do file conversions and also get a deep dive into your file to see what's inside of it. So setting up these ground controls is key. So let's cruise over to the computer and we'll show you more on there. File. So the pre-flight checks, as you can see in pre-flight mode, the errors it's calculating the score here, and everything is based on what we're checking against. What we're checking against is called the ground controls. You see triggered ground controls or triggered objects and the various errors and warnings. To do that, we can leave the file open at first to show you. If I show ground controls, you'll see that when they're red, it's a problem, and when it's yellow or orangish, it's a warning, and when it's not turned on, it's not being checked. So let me close off the file here we checked just to keep it clean. So the ground controls are up top in FlightCheck here under Show Ground Controls. Just click there and you get the ground controls. You can look in Detailed View where you get more information, or you can look in List View where you just get less information. Obviously, details probably better. From there, you'll see we have different sets of default checks for PDF, for a page layout, for a vector or Illustrator based file, and obviously page layouts in InDesign and QuarkXPress, etc. So we have different defaults that you can start with. So we go to page layout. These will be the recommended set of checks for page layout to help you get started. So you can use it out of the box quite easily. So now we can actually go in and say, well, warn me if the file size is greater than, say, 133 megabyte. I say that because we get a lot of bad files, and 133 megabyte and bigger have a lot more higher chance of having a bad file, particularly if you're embedding images. Anyway, side story. So just warn me if the file is bigger than 133. It's not a job-stopping error. I just want to be warned about it, right? Under page setup, we have a host of options to check for. And of course, under print, you can check for bleed or be warned about bleed. The marks as well. Page size, and of course under colors we start getting into more and more detail about color mode, use colors, etc., etc. Color is used and type is not, let's say, CMYK, for instance. So you can have these different types of checks here. Color used in a line, used in a stroke, etc., etc. Fonts, same thing. Some very handy checks in here. You can peruse these on your own, but you could say, is use and point size less than 4? We want to try to have it as an error because it might be too small to read. Now, if it's packaging, you might go a little bit lower. It's hard to say what your tolerance is. It's up to you. And of course, the main thing is, are they missing in a lot of cases? Images, a lot of information under images. So obviously, I'm not going to go over all of them, but all the typical type of FlightCheck pre-flight preferences you want to be able to check for, and even you can add in resolution ranges and et cetera, et cetera. So very, very handy. Is embedded, is missing, very important, et cetera. And lines, basically a hairline, and you want to check that as an error. Some rips will fail on those or produce jaggedy lines, etc. So those are, I should say, the ground controls. And for each file type or output type, we have a different sort of set of ground controls, which may vary depending on the whether it's a PDF or a page layout or a vector file. And you can have different sets of ground controls or Preflight profiles for each file type. So that's how the ground controls work. You set those up, and then when you check a file, we take back our main start window here, and if we take that page layout InDesign file. I guess first the preview here, the thumbnails, and now we can see all the pre-flight errors over here. So we can see right here, and it will take us, if we click on it, right to where the problem is. We can leave notes, please fix, and that will show up in our reporting process up here. So very, very handy pre-flight errors. So the ground controls here will help you set up the checks that will show up here and flagged as errors in red or in yellow as warnings. So that's how you do it. Then when you make a report, you can share that with other people, etc. If you see any ground controls that are not working, or if you have ground controls that are missing that you'd like to see in there, please go to Markzware.com under support and go to trouble ticket. There you can fill in the report. Right now, FlightCheck 2022 is in beta at the time of this video. When you're watching it, it might already be shipping. So that would just be then FlightCheck 2022. Just fill that in and let us know all the information. And if it's just a feature request, just fill it in here. So if you have a ground control you're missing, or if a ground control seems to be giving false negatives or false positives, whatever it might be, please report that here. It is a new product. It's a brand new engine, FlightCheck, compared to our years of our old engine. So it's very exciting. But please let us know if anything isn't working. It's all been highly tested. Should be fine.